consider the following statements. The 44th Amendment to the Constitution of India introduced an article placing the election of the Prime Minister beyond judicial review. The Supreme Court of India struck down the 99th Amendment to the Constitution of India as being violative of the independence of the judiciary. Which of the following statements is true? Answer choices in front of you. A couple of mistakes, I'll fix them. Okay, let's fix the answer choices as well and explain them. ये n हट जाएगा. Being violative of the independence of judiciary. Okay, let's go one by one. The 44th Amendment to the Constitution of India introduced an article placing the election of the Prime Minister beyond judicial review. So, guys, there are lots of articles and amendments, right? But of the two amendments which are arguably the most important ones, you need to remember the 44th and the 42nd. 42nd came in 1976. 44th came in 1978. This was by Indira Gandhi ji, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. This was during Prime Minister Morarji Desai and Law Minister Shanti Bhushan. And Law Minister H.R. Gokhale. Oh, Law Minister H.R. Gokhale. Anti-democracy. Passed during emergency. Pro-democracy. Passed after the emergency. Basically, when the emergency was announced, after that all the political opposition was in the jails under MISA, Maintenance of Internal Security Act, that Indira Gandhi ji and Law Minister Gokhale enacted the 42nd Amendment. It is also known as the mini constitution. It had several features which were very anti-democracy. Then, very soon in 1977, I think it was early 1977, somewhere around March, I think, the elections happened, and Indira Gandhi ji got voted out of power. That is when Prime Minister, one second please, Prime Minister Morarji Desai came into power. His law minister was Sri Shanti Bhushan. Sri Shanti Bhushan was given the mandate by the Prime Minister to undo all the damage done by the 42nd Amendment. As a result, he came out with the 44th Amendment to the Constitution to undo all the damage done by the 42nd Amendment. One second, please. Now, since 44th Amendment was mostly pro-constitution and pro-democracy, this answer choice, you can, even if you don't know much about it, and you want to do, what's that? Some student told me some fancy word you got to come up with. Guest master giri? I think it's trademarked also. If you guys want to do guest master giri, feel free. This certainly won't be the answer because 44th Amendment was pro-constitution. Okay. What really happened was 39th Amendment. We should write this down. 39th Amendment, which came in 10 August 1970. Good Lord. August 1975. The emergency was passed in I think July or June. It was really hot at that time. I think it was June from what I remember. Confirm. Not too very major important, but yeah. 10 January 1975. This was passed, the 39th Constitutional Assembly amendment during the emergency. Why am I mentioning the 39th? Because whatever article placed in the election of the Prime Minister, etc., this was there in the 39th and not the 44th. This was done because at that time case was filed, Raj Narayan versus Indira Gandhi, in which Indira Gandhi's election from Raebareli constituency was challenged by this gentleman called Raj Narayan. An eccentric gentleman who later on went to become the health minister in the Morarji Desai government. Raj Narayan had challenged many things. He said Indira Gandhi ji misused the government machinery for her own electoral purposes, government officers, etc., etc. His lawyer was Shri Shanti Bhushan, the law minister in Morarji Desai's government. So he challenged Indira Gandhi ji's election in the Allahabad High Court. Guess what? He won. Indira Gandhi's election was declared null and void by Judge Jagmohan Lal Sinha. So now she almost had to resign, and the situation came to such a point that she proclaimed the emergency, and also in addition to that, she said that she passed 39th Amendment because the matter was going to come to the Supreme Court for appeal. She thought if I pass the 39th Amendment during that at that time, so when the matter comes to the Supreme Court, I'll be able to handle it. My lawyers can always say, my lord, listen, that with all due respect, but the Parliament has already passed the Constitution Amendment. The Constitution has to be respected by the Supreme Court, and this Constitution Amendment, which is the 39th and not 45th, 39th and 45th, 39th Amendment says that election of the Prime Minister, in fact, not just the Prime Minister, but also the PM, President, Vice President, and Speaker. All of these cannot be decided by the Supreme Court or the High Court. They have to be sent to a special committee formed of certain high-ranking parliament members. This was the 39th Amendment. Then later on, this 39th Amendment came to be challenged itself in the Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan case, that appeal which came from the Allahabad High Court, and the Supreme Court struck down the 39th Amendment. The reason why the Supreme Court struck it down was that they referred to the very famous case. Please, this case you guys must know. Case number Bharatiya Bus Union of India. 1973. Doctrine of basic structure. So this case is very important. Why? Because this case, 1973, laid down the doctrine of basic structure, and it said that the Parliament has entire full powers to amend whatever part of the Constitution they can. Feel free, whatever language you want to change, etc. Do what you want to. But through those amendments, you cannot remove certain principles or certain ideals of the Constitution. Some of them include free and fair elections, independence, of judiciary, etc., etc. Relying on this Krishnan Bharati case 1973 doctrine based structure and specifically this point independence of judiciary that the Supreme Court struck down the 39th Amendment. It was struck down, saying this amendment is null and void. Why? Because it violates the basic principle of independence of judiciary. Hence, this amendment is going to be struck down. Okay. Next choice. The Supreme Court of India struck down the 99th Amendment to the Constitution of India as being violative of independence of judiciary. What is this 99th Amendment? Anyone, any guesses? Actually, one second, state of Kerala. Actually, state of Kerala, sorry, not the Union of India. 99th Amendment, what did it do? Any guesses, anyone? You all should know this. The 99th Amendment amended the Constitution and added the concept and the body of the NJAC or the National Judicial Appointment Commission. 99th Amendment. What did it exactly amend? This amended Article 124. The 124th article of the Constitution it amended, and this National Judicial Appointment Commission was to select members of the Supreme Court and the High Court. That was the amendment. This came in what, I think in 20 NGAC article 99th amendment was what, the 2014 I think it was, this amendment came. Just one second please, I'll tell you. I apologize for the handwriting. Sorry. 2014. Now what did, so Article 124, which I'll read it out to you also. Establishment in the Constitution of the Supreme Court. This article was amended by the 99th Amendment, and it established the NGAC, National Judicial Accountability Commission, which consisted, I think, of the top 3 judges of the Supreme Court, the law minister, one eminent jurist, and I think the leader of the opposition. The body of these 6 people was to decide the Supreme Court judges. So a 6-member body, this was a six-member body. Okay. This particular amendment was then challenged in the, I think it was Union of India. Let me just confirm, please. I should write this down. UI is simple, Unit of India. SCAORA, SCAORA, Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association versus Unit of India. By the way, what does an advocate on record? I'll quite simply tell you. In the Supreme Court, you have every lawyer. Any lawyer can practice and come before. Licensed lawyer can come and appear before the Supreme Court. The advocate on record is a special class of lawyer which have to clear an exam conducted by the Supreme Court itself. And if they clear the exam, they get a certain rank, they clear it, then they become advocates on record. As per the Supreme Court rules, only advocates on record are allowed to file any sort of petition, application, case, anything before the Supreme Court. Before the Supreme Court, this means that any lawyer can come and argue, but the filing has to be done through an AOR only, an advocate on record, so that a certain minimum level of quality is maintained. Sorry. So this 99th Amendment was challenged by the SCAORA in 2015. So 2015 the judgment also came, and this 99th Amendment was struck down. Supreme Court nullified this 99th Amendment. Supreme Court said this 99th Amendment doesn't apply anymore. What was the reason given by the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court relied upon this Q.1 Bharti case in this matter. Q.1 Bharti case, and the doctrine basis structure, and more specifically, the Supreme Court, what they relied upon was independence of judiciary. And what they meant to say was, if this NJSC was established, then it would affect the independence of the judiciary. Sorry. It would affect the independence of the judiciary, and the judge selection powers should remain vested with the Supreme Court only. Hence, this particular article, 99th Amendment, was struck down, which amended Article 124 regarding the selection of Supreme Court judges and High Court judges. Reason again given, basis structure, more specifically independence of judiciary. I think, yeah. So I've told you SCAORA, I've told you the Q.1 Bharti case, 13 and 45th. All right, now coming to the answer. Now, if you know all the theory and the concepts are clear, and this is also honestly not very complicated stuff, you just need to understand it. And this is what I'm trying to give you the concepts in a very simple storybook format. So consider the following statements. This came in 2019. The 44th Amendment to the Constitution of India was struck down. 44th Amendment was introduced. The article placing the election of the Prime Minister beyond judicial review. Wrong. That was done by the 39th Amendment, and even that was struck down. The Supreme Court of India struck down the 99th Amendment of the Constitution of India as being violative of independence of judiciary. That's absolutely correct. Hence the answer choice is 2 only. Wrong, right, wrong,